All right, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about maybe the most fascinating, most contradictory god on Mount Olympus, the divine artisan, the master craftsman, Hephaestus. I want you to picture this. You're on a mountain filled with flawless, stunningly beautiful gods. And then there's this one guy. He's different. He gets mocked for his imperfections, yet he's the one everyone secretly relies on. He's the engine that makes Olympus run. Hephaestus went by a lot of names, and they really tell you everything, don't they? They capture this incredible clash in his identity, this deep struggle, but also this absolute, undeniable genius. So to really get who Hephaestus is, you have to go right back to the beginning. And his story? Well, it doesn't start with some glorious celebration. It starts with a brutal fall from heaven that pretty much defined his entire existence. And here's where it gets interesting, because there are two different versions of this story. Was he tossed off Olympus by his own mother, Hera, just because he was born with a physical impairment? Or was he thrown out by his father Zeus for trying to defend her? Either way you slice it, the result's the same, a brutal rejection that lights the fuse for everything that comes next. So hidden away from the perfect, judgmental eyes of the other gods, he finds his calling. Down in this secret underwater forge, all that pain, all that resentment, it got hammered and shaped into a skill that was absolutely second to none. Now, Hephaestus wasn't going to punch his way back onto Olympus. No, he was way smarter than that. He was going to use his greatest weapon, his brain. He was going to invent his way back home. You don't just get thrown off a mountain by your own mom and, forget about it. He spent all those years in exile plotting, and his plan for payback was just brilliant. And the centerpiece of this plan? A gift. He builds this stunning, jewel-covered golden throne and sends it right up to Olympus. On the surface, it looks like a peace offering for Queen Hera. Hera, of course, is thrilled. She sits down to admire her gorgeous new present, and that's when the trap springs. She's instantly shackled by invisible chains, so strong nothing can break them. The tables have completely turned. The outcast son is now holding the queen of the gods hostage. He turns down every god who comes begging, until Dionysus, the god of wine, shows up, gets him completely drunk, and finally convinces him to come back. And just like that, using his mind, his sheer craftiness, his techne, Hephaestus makes the perfect gods beg him to come home. He didn't just crawl back. He made them roll out the red carpet for him. So he's back on Olympus, but his life is, well, it's a mess of contradictions. On the one hand, you have the absolute genius of his workshop, and on the other, you have the total disaster of his marriage. I mean, just look at this stuff. In his forge, with its 20 automated bellows, the guy was a one-man industrial revolution. He made pretty much every important magical object in all of Greek mythology. We're talking thinking robots, Zeus's thunderbolts, you name it. His marriage to Aphrodite was basically a cruel joke, arranged by Zeus, pairing the so-called ugliest god with the literal goddess of beauty. And yeah, it was a train wreck. But later, he marries Aglaia, the personification of splendor, and that was a much, much better fit, a union of pure craft and pure glory. So when Hephaestus finds out Aphrodite is cheating on him with Eris, the god of war of all people, does he challenge him to a fight? No way. He does what he always does. He goes to his forge. He builds another one of his ingenious traps, catches them in the act, and drags them in front of all the other gods, turning the whole affair into a public comedy. But don't think for a second that Hephaestus was just some background character churning out weapons and gadgets. No, his work was front and center for some of the biggest moments in all of mythology. I mean, think about it. When Zeus has a killer headache, who does he call? Hephaestus, to literally crack his skull open and release a fully grown Athena. When Zeus wants to punish humanity, who molds the first woman Pandora out of clay? Hephaestus. And in the Trojan War, whose armor made Achilles practically invincible? You guessed it. So, while he might have been the butt of some jokes up on Olympus, down on Earth, it was a completely different story. To us mortals, the lame god was a celebrated hero, a patron of civilization itself. And it makes perfect sense, right? His biggest fans were in places of fire and industry. Lemnos, the island that literally caught him when he fell. Sicily, where they believed Mount Etna's volcano was the chimney of his forge. And especially Athens, the ancient world's hub for art and innovation. The Athenians even held a huge festival for him called the Hephaestia.
The main event was this incredible torch-lit relay race, all to celebrate the god who gave humanity its greatest tool, the mastery of fire.
And here's the really amazing part. His temple, the Hephaestus, is still standing today. It's actually one of the best preserved Greek temples in the entire world. A real, lasting monument to the god of the working class, a deity who was honored for his incredible skill, not his looks.
So, in the end, the story of Hephaestus, this god in the machine, it really leaves you with a question, doesn't it? He was defined by his scars, by the very things that made him an outcast. But he's remembered for what he created. It makes you wonder, does real strength come from being perfect and flawless? Or does it come from the incredible things we manage to build from our own broken pieces?